Dun 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 dun. Coming to you live from the Hellmouth. It's the Popular Cinema Podcast. I'm your co-host Payne,
I'm Bill.
and welcome to episode 34.
Hello.
Well, how's your mood right now?
I'm slightly cranky, but that's okay.
Once again, I find our intro and everything else, I hate to have to even discuss this, but luckily we've got into 5 minutes. We were discussing something for several minutes, and then my Wi Fi went down, which shut everything down. So we're back, and I'm still in a good mood.
Okay.
I think it's because it's snowing where I'm at, and I think the snow gets into my wires and it kind of plays havoc.
Really?
Or,
Are they made out of shoestrings?
maybe I need to have a hard line. Maybe I need to have a hard line to
Maybe you need
whatever.
to have a Wi Fi router that actually works.
Is that the problem?
Yes, that's probably the problem.
Do you remember that time you were over my house and what went down? We were trying to do something and the Wi-Fi went down or something else.
Yes, and they came out to your house and they had to chisel the router out of the stone that it was built upon and said that it was like 20 years out of date. And they replaced it with one that works just about as well.
I remember I argued with you thoroughly because it was like it was a Saturday. I was like, "There's no way somebody's going to come out here on a Saturday and get this shit done." And you made one phone call, and they were like, "We'll be right there, Master Bill. We'll be right there." And toot sweet.
For all the good it did, because it still doesn't work right.
Well, I mean, honestly, of all the times, it literally this thing has been working for weeks, weeks, weeks. But we start talking for 5 minutes, and then poof! All of a sudden, I was like this. You were off. I was going like this. Hello, 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 hello.
You know, when I was over there for the Doctor Strange premiere and we were trying to watch trailers and you had to hook up your Roku device and if for whatever reason it wasn't capturing the Wi-Fi, it wasn't capturing the Wi-Fi and you were ready to like yank it out of the wall. And
Yeah.
I just lifted it up and put it over that little doorway to the cabinet. All of a sudden, the Wi-Fi, which is like 10 foot away, is able to pick up the signal.
Well, it's
I
because
mean, really?
my TV stand is like lead. It's like lead. It's
Right.
like Superman lead. You can't get.
So you think that if it's not going to go 10 feet over to the Roku box, that it's going to go through floors of your house?
There's nothing in between my floors. There's nothing but like feathers, feathers and dust.
Well,
I don't.
apparently, feathers and dust, which is probably holding that whole house together, is too much for the Wi Fi strength to get through. So, you know,
Ah, ah. The people don't understand. I think our best material has probably been chucked away into the river because we have to disregard it because I refuse to splice it together. And by the time we have to do the show over for a second or third time, we're both just exhausted. And we're just
I
like,
think
let's get on with it.
I think that you should probably assemble all of those bits and pieces into like one file and then just put it up as like outtakes. We did that with my other show and we got a lot of hits on it.
Oh, that is genius.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
that'll
FYI.
just take another 3 weeks out of my time of trying to figure that part out.
Well, I mean, you can't put a price tag on art.
Yeah, all right. I can't. I just can't deal with stuff like that. All the good material is just lost. But here, Bill, I can still do this.
Did you just pull another rabbit out of your hat?
I did pull, I wish I could pull out a reliable Wi-Fi writer. But anyway, that drum roll signifies that we've got a fan response.
Ah, from Nadia.
Yes, shout out to Nadia, wherever you are. Um, Her response put me on cloud nine, Bill. It was very thoughtful and very thorough in everything she said. She gave some critiques, She gave some sort of positive comments, and it's real exciting to know that there's somebody out there that's actually listening to us.
That we don't actually already know. That is nice.
Yes, that very much so is nice.
It is.
Not to mention, she's a fan of child of the '80s, digging that "Better Off Dead" by John Cusack, which you
Right.
probably should see at some point in time.
Yeah, it's one of those '80s movies. Though I was a child of the '80s myself. That one just, and that one or another, One Crazy Summer. I never saw either one of those.
So anyway, I appreciate that somehow we're keeping her company on her commute to and from work, and she's probably not actually driving with children because otherwise, there would have been commented there about your swearing and things of that nature.
There's an E tag on it.
Ooh, okay, all right. Well, you know how these people are nowadays. They're hippies. They're like my sister. Who knows? They're already teaching them like about sex. They're like age 5, and they're just like, penis, vagina. That's what they do.
You didn't know anything about sex when you were 5?
Unfortunately, about you, I wasn't raised by wolves. Okay, all right.
Okay. So anyway, thank you for the feedback, Nadia, and we definitely appreciate hearing from you. We'd love to hear from you again in the future. The email was a little bit long for us to address in whole, but we definitely read it and definitely appreciated it. And so thanks again.
Yes, and for other people out there who would like to contact us, feel free at 802-35-PCP35. Once again, that is 802-35-PCP35. Moving onward, Bill.
Yes.
So Nadia was kind of hoping to have a longer show because her commute's kind of long, but we're still trying to work on being more disciplined on how we put out our material.
Sure.
So,
the idea, though, would be to maybe strike a happy medium between people who like the longer shows and our ability to do longer shows. Maybe we can do special episodes with longer material, like next week's Rogue One review.
yeah, I think that sounds good. I still
And
like
then
to
stick with the hour format.
on it, but yes, that sounds like an excellent idea.
So
Hey, is it snowing down where you're at?
I don't know. I'm in the basement with no windows.
Okay, did you not go outside today?
No, I haven't been outside since Friday. Why would I be outside?
You're just like some sort of Unabomber down there, huh?
My house has everything I need. The less times I have to leave it, the better.
That's just crazy. You're just like, you just stock up with provisions, you close the door, and you don't go back out until it's time for work on Monday. Is that
I've got Netflix, I've got 4K, I've got cable, I've got a Blu-ray collection. I really don't have much need to leave.
I took time off of work this week to spend it with my woman.
Sure.
And so she actually went to work today. So there will be no, producer in studio.
Scooty's is still not participating?
No, he's actually next to me, sleeping.
Of course, as usual.
And Ferg is actually down there on Prozac, as you know.
How's that working out? Is he chilling out a little bit on the Prozac?
No, I think it takes maybe like a couple weeks, I hear, for the Prozac to really seep into your system. And it's like day 4, and I'm seeing no effects. He's still up at night looking at me like at 2 o'clock. He's like one of those prairie dogs standing straight up looking at you the whole night. So
how do you know he's looking at you if you're actually sleeping? Like you just turn over and open your eyes and he's just staring?
He's staring at you. Yes. Yes. And so much that now with Scooties is growling at him. Like he'll walk by him and then Scooties is like, "Urgh." So he's fucking up everybody's sleep at this point.
Okay. Maybe Ferg is just a night owl. Maybe you could just leave the TV on and he can just sit up and watch like puppy TV or something all night.
I've left the TV on all night. I've been doing that for weeks. I've actually put an eye mask on. And so I leave it on just so he can be comfortable.
I mean, maybe you need to find something that interests him, though. Like, what channel do you leave it on? You just put like CNN and turn over and go to bed, or
I put it on Pet TV.
Okay.
But the thing about it is, I have to turn the volume down, so I can't fall asleep like a wave machine or something. I need to have low volume, but then I have to have my eyes covered for this nonsense.
Well, he's blind. Maybe he's deaf too. Maybe he can't hear it.
Oh, that's oh, he's not blind. He's looking directly at me because when I raise my fist to beat him, he
He can
sees
see
it
that, huh?
coming.
Yeah, he can walk into walls, but he'll see that fist coming, right?
You know something?
Maybe. Go ahead.
This is what I was thinking. Elder abuse. I can see how elder abuse happens. I can see it because you get tired and you get frustrated and you're just like, I can't take it anymore. I just can't. And you can only talk with your fist. I mean, that's it. That's the only way I can communicate my displeasure because I sit there and I go, I don't want to. But imagine that you've been a hard day at work and you're just trying to catch some Z's and somebody keeps poking you. Every 5 minutes, they're just poking you, just looking at you. And by the time it's time for you to get up, they're sleeping comfortably. Oh no.
I
Oh
imagine
no.
this is what it's like for people that have babies. I mean, you just have to think of Ferg as like, extremely old baby. He's like Benjamin Button.
Yeah, but
Uh,
I think babies, I think there's a difference because I think with babies, you're just like, there's some extra, I don't know, what is it? Some hormone that's probably released. You kind of know you're built for it. You're not built with this for elderly people. There's no tolerance for the elderly. I'm
that's not
just
very
saying, I can
nice.
understand that my sister, whoever who's tasked with taking care of my ass, I imagine I'm going to have some black eyes. When you come to visit me, it's going to be like I'm going to be in the back room and there's going to be bruises on my body. You're going to be like, what's going on? I'm like, I can't talk about it, Bill. I can't.
No, Presh and I have already discussed this. We're just going to roll you out into a parking lot and let the birds pick you to death. It's fine. We will be fine. So,
Uh,
just saying.
anyway, so I'm actually timing us here, and so FYI. And by the way, it appears that as Nadia pointed out, I'm about as subtle as a sledgehammer. So I'm going to try to be a little bit more subtle for this episode, if that's possible.
When you say subtle, exactly what do you mean?
Well, I'm always like this, Bill. You have 2 minutes, 1 minute, or you're getting rid of my personal. You're putting out my personal information. So I like to be a little bit smoother, like
I
Shaq.
believe the word Nadia used for it was belligerent.
That's, I don't know if I saw that word belligerent in there.
Oh, yes, I saw it. I did. But just saying.
I like the.
Hostile, aggressive, these kinds of words.
I think she meant passionate. I think that's
Yes,
what
I'm
she was
sure that's
looking
what
for.
you're absolutely right. I'm sure that's what she
Anyway, so I want to get your 2 cents on this real quick.
meant. Okay.
It's Christmas time here, and Die Hard is, I feel like, the quintessential Christmas movie for me.
Okay.
How do you feel about that? Do you think Die Hard is a Christmas movie?
It takes place at Christmas, doesn't it? Or is that Die Hard 2 when they're at the airport and the plane's going to take off and it's snowing? Isn't it? I think Die Hard 1 is a Christmas movie also, though.
Yeah.
I don't really think of Die Hard as a Christmas movie. When I think of Christmas movies, I think of, holiday cheer, kind of family get together kind of movies like Christmas Vacation, uh,
Oh,
It's a Wonderful Life, that kind of thing.
you know what? I forgot. Christmas Vacation has to be also up there, 1 and 2, if you will. I always like
Okay.
the vacation movies with Chevy Chase
Right.
and Beverly D'Angelo. So anyway, what's your top
So,
movie then?
my top Christmas movie? I
Yeah.
have I have a few, um, but one of them that's a more recent Chestnut that has become a holiday perennial for me and actually has vaulted to the top of my Christmas movie list and is must see every year is The Polar Express. I just
Ooh.
adore that movie. It might be vying for number one spot in my heart right now. I have a TV movie that's the musical version of The Christmas Carol with music by Alan Menken from the Disney music overlord who did The Little Mermaid and Aladdin and all of that second golden age stuff.
Okay.
But it was a TV movie that came on in NBC starring Kelsey Grammer from Cheers as Ebenezer Scrooge. And it's just another one of my absolute go-to favorites. And of course, It's a Wonderful Life, which
Those are all classics. I've never saw the Polar Express.
really,
We have the Polar Express up here. Do you have one of those down where you're at?
I don't think so, but I knew that there was one near you.
Okay. It
Gotta have
sells out
something.
very quickly, but I've never seen it. um, what do you call A Christmas Story?
Sure.
I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I never fully watched it all the way through.
That's funny. So have I. I've never seen that whole movie all the way through, but I've seen obviously bits and pieces of it as well. I don't know what it is about the movie that doesn't really make me want to gravitate towards it, but it just doesn't really hold that much of appeal to me. One that's really been rising up on my list lately in the last few years also is not necessarily just a straight Christmas movie, but it's a DreamWorks animated film about all of the holidays. Rise of the Guardians.
Oh, okay. Isn't that
Which
is that Brian Singer? Who is that?
no, I don't know who the director is. I think it's a black guy. I can't remember his name though. He's kind of new, but I mean, it's just kind of got this real holiday feel to it because I mean, it does have Santa Claus in it as well as the Tooth Fairy and Sandman and all of the other holiday. The Easter Bunny, Hugh Jackman is played by,
Okay.
and
The
it's just
director is
another
Peter Ramsey.
right. But I adore that movie too. So
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm thinking this year, since I am actually coming out of my cave and actually dating a real life woman, I will be watching probably A Christmas Story. I'm going to try to skip over the Polar Express, but I'll
why?
probably, I don't know, just doesn't really speak to me. So, I mean, I should give.
What do you think the movie is about?
Oh, I don't know. It's some sappy goodness, sappy good cheer.
Okay. It's about the Polar Express, but it's also about the spirit of Christmas and how, as children, it's something that just comes naturally to children. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to say that, you obviously make your own selections, but I would highly recommend the Polar Express.
Okay. What about Prancer? Have you seen Prancer?
I have never seen Prancer, but I'm not sure it would be. I mean, it's about like a reindeer, obviously, the deer.
Listen, apparently it's one of my woman's favorite Christmas movies, Prancer.
Really?
So
Okay.
I'll be watching. So you know what I'll do is I'll try to watch something new for this Christmas, and then I can't watch too many new things here because you still got to go with the old classics. Like what is it? Rudolph, Heat Miser, and Freeze Miser, all those
That's
guys.
called The Year Without a Santa Claus. And strangely enough, although I will not discourage anyone from ever seeing them, especially if you haven't seen them in a while, but for me, they just honestly don't hold up as well as I had hoped they would. Rudolph and Year Without a Santa Claus. Year Without a Santa Claus may be more so than some of the other ones, but I get a little bored with them after so long.
Oh, that's sad to see. Maybe that's part of your inner child dying.
No, no such possible thing, but I'm curious, are you going to rent these things or do you
No,
own them?
no, I don't rent and don't own anymore. Everything's in the cloud, either that or a
Right. Well, I
Hulu or
mean,
a
are you
Netflix.
gonna? I mean, rent off of Netflix or whatever you're doing with it.
No, I'm gonna wait for it to come on television. Isn't that the way it normally works?
Oh, is that how we do it? Okay. One of the old Christmas chestnuts that does not ever get tired for me is a Charlie Brown Christmas. I gotta say that one.
Oh,
I'm all down with that one.
all right, all right. Well,
So
Bill,
when are you gonna start this marathon of Christmassy goodness?
I have no idea. I just know that probably when I'm sitting around, at some point somebody's going to be walking out with the Prancer DVD, and then I know that's going to be time for me to watch the Prancer. That's what I
Okay.
know.
How
So,
about It's a Wonderful Life? Have you ever seen that?
um, I think I've seen bits and pieces once again.
I don't think that one's for you. It's a little too happy and wrapped up with a bow for you.
Oh no, I mean I've seen the end of it. The concept I like. It's actually I would be okay with the film.
Okay.
I would be more okay with that film than a Polar Express. You
Okay.
know. But let's move on.
All
I
right.
was going to get into a little diatribe about Westworld, but we'll save that for another time here because that's not going to go away. I just like to give the middle finger to Lisa Joy and Jonathan Nolan. That's what I like to do. But let's move on
All right.
because I'm getting the cue signal from the imaginary producer. Bill, this
Okay.
whole show here I'm looking at, it looks like this is just there's been a lot of trailers that popped out over the past couple weeks.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing that so many trailers are like really hitting one right on top of the other on top of the other. It's like a veritable glut.
Yeah, I felt like it's just Christmas. I wake up and I was like, a trailer? I didn't know this was coming out. Usually you give me a posting like, guess what's, something's arriving in the next day or so or at midnight. And
Right.
I'm just like, ooh, okay. Well, anyway, let's go over the first trailer, Spider-Man Homecoming. The movie comes
That's
out on 7/7/17. Directed by John Watts, from a screenplay by Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly. Starring Tom
Tom Holland.
Holland, Michael Keaton, Zendaya, Donald Glover, Bokeem Woodbine, Marissa Tomei, Robert Downey Jr. Did you see the trailer?
I saw two trailers actually.
Domestic and international?
Correct. Did you watch them both?
I did.
There's slight subtle differences. There's just one extra scene in the international of dialogue with Michael Keaton, I believe, and a couple other quick snippets. There aren't that many differences, but enough to sort of notice. The tone of the trailers is also very different. The domestic one is much more of the storyline of the movie and the sort of teen angle Breakfast Club kind of thing that they're going for, and the second international one is much more actiony oriented. So I think you
Right.
get a good mix of the movie having watched both. So a good
I picked up
idea.
a different vibe actually from watching the international trailer versus the domestic one. I felt the domestic one actually had a little bit more of a I think you would compare it to like a John Hughes type of flavor. I felt like there was a lot more teen angst and what's the word I want to look adolescence appeal of the first one. And the international trailer seemed to just focus more on the action in and of itself. Like it kind of cut out any type of what do you call it, growing pains, if you will. It didn't focus on that aspect of it.
Which one did you like better?
I like the domestic one because I think Tom Holland, for me, his voice. I think you're a fan of his voice, but his voice really comes across to me as being like a nerdy teenager. And then watching that domestic trailer, his friends as well as the students that they had, or like Zendaya and the rest of the people, they sort of looked young to me. They looked young. Garfield and who's the blonde that played an Amazing Spider-Man?
Emma Stone.
Yeah, this is the type of thing where like Beverly Hills 90210, they're supposed to be playing high school students, but they look like they're like 30-year-old underwear models. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I know what I look like in high school. I know what you look like in high school. These, if we're gonna have to go with older people, they look young enough to where I'm thinking that I get a adolescent feel from them. So I'm a fan of the first trailer. So
Um,
the
I
domestic
would
trailer.
probably say I would choose the domestic trailer. Also, a couple of things that I noticed that I'm not sure where they're exactly going, and some of them that I do sort of predict where they're sort of going with it. I think with the whole romantic angle, if I'm guessing just based on this trailer, obviously they've got Zendaya playing like the homely girl, and they have the other girl, I forget what her name is, Lily maybe, sort of be the object of Peter Parker's affections. Um, it appears to me that they're going for maybe because we all know that Zendaya is a beautiful girl, and in the trailer they have her looking very sort of washed out and no makeup and plain Janie, and maybe she's like the nerd. Okay,
What is she supposed to be, like a Bratz doll? She goes to the house with a face full of makeup. She's going to
well,
school.
what I think they're going for is like an ugly duckling storyline, like a she's all that vibe, where they're misdirecting you with Peter crushing on this other girl, but in the end of the trilogy or however many of these movies they intend to make, Zendaya clearly is going to blossom because you don't cast Zendaya in a movie because she's not the pretty girl. She's gorgeous, and they have her looking like some kind of ragamuffin in the trailer. So it's quite obvious for me that they're going for she's going to blossom like a swan at some point in the series, and that she will become, the beautiful girl that transforms. That's like her arc.
I think the weak part of this trailers for me was the Vulture. Michael Keaton, I like. His whole tone and tenor really was kind of
You mean where he says, "I'll kill everyone you know"?
yeah. I actually bought into it. I
Is
bought
that
in
gravitas of a villain enough for you?
actually.
Would you have preferred if he said, "I will dismember everyone you love, limb from limb, and watch you eat them"?
Yeah, you know
That be
what?
villainy enough for you?
It wasn't over the top. I find it to be good acting. I'm just not a fan of the costume at this point right now, just for my first entry. I feel like this is more like a Green Goblin thing. I don't know why these villains have to wear full mask and full metal. It seems like it causes there to be a disconnect for me between the actor and the villain. It doesn't seem to work for me at times. So I
Well,
don't know how you get around. I don't know how you get around it, but I understand you can't have a guy running around in a bird suit without maybe a mask. I'm just not sure. I'm just a fan of that.
well, are you trying to say we need to move on?
Yeah, I was trying to think that would be more like subtle, but that seemed very loud.
That's fine. Just let me finish this one thought, and then we can continue with our next subject. But
Okay.
um, I was looking at pictures. I myself feel like the costume maybe is a little bit reminiscent of the original Spider-Man as well, with the sort of metallic mask and whatnot. I also don't find it. What's interesting to me is that the feedback you get for this is so different for the feedback that you got from something like the Doctor Doom costume from the rebooted Fantastic Four, which to me there are still similar elements in both costumes. Not that they look exactly alike, but that the level of effects seems similar to me. And it's just interesting that the Kool-Aid is so much more flavorful for the Spider-Man Vulture than it was for the Doctor Doom. In any
I
case,
I will point out, like I think with Doctor Doom, there's an expect. My expectation is that Doctor Doom wears a full metal mask. The Vulture character that Michael Keaton is playing, Adrian Toomes, is mostly always shown like wearing a green costume, green wings, and his face is visible. He's just an old man in a green suit. So when you put a mask on him, I think in terms of it's something different, it's something outside of what you would expect from the Vulture character. It's like a whole new costume. So
well,
I, I
what they've done is sort of make it tech based, which, I think it's kind of smart to do that in a way, because when you look at the costume from the comic book, it's a little ridiculous. I mean, I'm just going to put it out there. When you have the guy in the green costume with the green wings and the fur collar, it just looks, very artificial. And I'm not saying it's a home run, but I think tech based at least is a right direction for it to go.
okay. Well, it looks like the trailer has just hit the airwaves, but you've indicated to me that there's going to be a Spider-Man Homecoming too.
Well, this is kind of putting the cart before the horse. I'm pretty sure that they wanted to make a Amazing Spider-Man 3 before Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out also, and we see how that turned out. So I'm not saying that it's not going to happen. I'm just saying anything can happen. And if audiences have decided that this is the first Marvel movie in which they've had enough from, because we all know one day it's going to happen where Marvel is going to fall out of favor. It's the law of averages. It happens to everybody. Just
Black
ask Peter
Panther.
Jackson.
Black Panther.
Yeah, Black Panther, but that's fine. But I'm just saying, um, you know, hold your horses, I guess, would be my thought on that for right now. Because what I really don't want to get into is getting my hopes built up for another trilogy or whatever of Spider-Man movies, and then have them be, um, truncated by the audience rejection, like Amazing Spider-Man 2. So,
As I'm sitting here listening to you, is it possible that this is just what they do nowadays? I mean, this movie, the Spider-Man Homecoming 2, is they're marking the date down for July 5th of 2019. So it looks like they're trying to take over the 4th of July, whatever day or weekend. So they're trying to scare off other people and say, by the way, we're bringing out another Spider-Man movie. So if you want to bring out one of your big blockbusters, we suggest you move it to someplace else because We're pissing on this tree, if you will, right now.
I,
Even
s-
if
I
this
s-
movie doesn't work out, we're still taking over that date.
yeah, I suppose so. But again, it just kind of gets you to a place of how much hubris can they have? How much overconfidence? It kind of rubs me the wrong way, and I kind of wonder if it rubs other people the wrong way that they're greenlighting a sequel to a movie that hasn't even been released, and who knows if it will be successful. Now, based on the Marvel track record, I
Hmm.
imagine they can probably surmise that they're going to probably be able to make a sequel. But even if they did have that date planned, at this point, I don't know if it was mag. What's the word I'm looking for? Magnanimous of them to release the information
So
to the
you don't
public.
really think it's from your perspective, a fan perspective, you're turned off by this arrogance, if you will.
Yeah, a little bit. I am.
Okay.
It's like, what if I don't like this movie? What I mean, obviously, I don't give a crap if I'm the only person that doesn't like it. But I'm just saying, what if people reject it?
But you
That
get excited when you hear this. When you sit there and they put out the calendar for DC saying we're going to be doing all these movies from Flash to Batman, you get excited for it.
yeah, I'm not saying it'd be like I don't know what I'm trying to say. It just rubs me the wrong way.
Okay, all right. Well, let's move on. Um, how does this sound? Let's see what this sounds like.
Sounds like the doorbell.
Yeah, it seems kind of aggressive, huh? You like the ticking clock or the doorbell?
I like the ticking clock.
All right. Anyway, we had a discussion. I don't know, sometime as we normally do over the past 2 weeks, where we started talking about animated characters. I think it was probably Beauty and the Beast, and maybe a little bit of Star Wars: The Force Awakens, where we were talking about diversity. And I'm going to give 6 minutes to this whole thing of diversity in animation. Get your 2 cents on this again. Okay, the studios seem to be moving towards like making everything diverse. So I guess my question to you, Bill, is it true diversity if one of the ethnic people that you're casting in a movie is just a voice of an animated character? Does that make sense what I said to you?
Yes, and the answer for me is yes, because if you want to talk about diversity in Hollywood as a general subject, that counts for more than what's put on screen. It counts by hiring people to work behind the scenes, hiring people to work in production of movies. It needs to permeate all levels of a production of a movie in order for it to be considered progressive or moving in a more culturally aware sense. So, because a person is hired and their physical presence is either motion captured, as in the case of Lupita Nyong'o in Maz Kanata's as in Star Wars, or in the case of a minority actor being hired to do the voice of a cartoon, like Dwayne Johnson. I think we were talking about The Rock in Moana. Um, I think it counts for inclusion just based on the fact that you're employing a minority person, and that counts.
Okay. The definition of diversity here, there's multiple definitions, is the inclusion of different types of people, as people of different races or cultures, in a group or organization. I think if that's the definition, what you're saying would fit the bill. They're hiring people behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, if you will. But I can't get behind it. I mean, if you're going to go for diversity, I feel like in film, I mean, sure, I get it that you should be having people like Ava DuVernay direct movies or what have you. Um, who's our boy that's directing Black Panther?
Um,
Ryan Coogler.
right.
All those things. Those are all positive things. But I think the medium, when I hear diversity in film, I expect to probably see, like, I guess, more women or ethnic characters on screen. Not as animated characters. Like, I don't want to see, like, Roger Rabbit or some character like a squirrel come out and they're like this. This is the voice of Denzel Washington. Because the thing about it is, I don't necessarily know the people's voices. I don't know their voices. So when I'm taking my kids or whoever else there, they're not going to know who these voices are. They're just going to see a cute little squirrel, or Maz Katana, or Rocket Raccoon, even though I know that's played by Bradley Cooper. They're not going to know there's some sort of ethnic thing or being diverse. That's just something somebody checks off a box. But on the screen, you really got to show the character. If you're going to go for diversity, you have to actually show the person. If you don't show the person and you give me some sort of animation or motion capture, it does not count.
So, in an animated movie about Polynesian people, you expect them to have people who look Polynesian play the characters. I
No.
mean, the animation of the characters look Polynesian.
I find that if it's a fully animated film, I do not have a problem with it. You can do whatever you want in a fully animated film. But if you're going to have some sort of thing, let's say The Force Awakens, and you're telling me that Lupita Nyong'o is in it, but I don't see Lupita Nyong'o anywhere, and you're telling me that's her voice, I don't know her voice, and nor do I care. And so to me, that doesn't check off a diversity box for me. That just, I don't know what that does, but it doesn't check off diversity.
So let me ask you a question. If they would have had Maz Kanata look like Esther Roll from Good Times instead of looking like a little orange Yoda, would that have been more diversity and inclusion for you? If she looked like Esther Roll but talked with Lupita Nyong'o's voice, then that counts.
That would count.
Right?
That would count. That would be fine, actually.
You know how ridiculous that sounds?
It's not ridiculous. It's because the whole idea when they're on stage, my opinion, when they're talking about, here, I'll do it for myself. That's awfully long. When they're talking about diversity in film and pushing the things forward, I don't think it's because they're sitting there going like, Will Smith needs to get more voice acting roles or motion capture. They're like, no, he needs to get actual film roles so you see his face. So when people go to the films, they see the people, they see the women on stage, they see different people of color up on screen, not voices, because half the time, listen, I don't even know you, Bill, but your voice could be a lot of different things. You could be some sort of Chechen from Russia, for all I know. I mean, how do I know you're black? I don't know. I don't know these voices.
And that's kind of the whole point, I think, of inclusion and diversity, is that you don't have to know that the person who's playing the voice is black or Mexican or Chinese, whatever minority person you want to think of, but they in fact are, and the people who are working with them see them in the studio recording the dialogue or whatever, and they are becoming more comfortable being around people in the arts community of different ethnicities, and therefore that permeates into them hiring people in the future or for other productions more frequently in front of camera roles. I just don't think it is important that every person has to have some kind of like ethnic profile in order to be cast as any part, and I think that's kind of,
when I look back at Star Wars. See, you're a Star Wars fan, so you can correct me here right before we move on here. When I think of the Star Wars trilogy, the original, I think of, we're going to go with ethnic, if at the time, is Billy D. Williams, Lando Calrissian. And do you know why? Because he was shown on screen. I don't think of James Earl Jones. He is the voice of one of the most popular villains ever in history, of Darth Vader. But I don't think of James Earl Jones. I think of Darth Vader because that's who's on screen. Maybe that's my own fault. But when you ask me to think about if any black actors are in Star Wars, the original, I think of Billy D. Williams. First person that comes to mind. He's in it for 10 minutes.
You want to know who knows that there was a black actor playing the voice of Darth Vader in Star Wars?
Who?
James Earl Jones, accountant. That's who knows.
I can't with you. I can't.
I mean, seriously?
Listen, Judas, it's not about selling out, okay? It's not about the cash. It's not about the cash. Diversity is not about cash.
Okay, well, here's what I can say to you then, because this is about to be your year. with the diversity issue. Okay, they are going to go forward with being much more diverse. That has been stated on record by Kevin Feige. It's been stated on record. These are some of the most powerful people that are running Hollywood right now. It's been stated on public record by Kathleen Kennedy. Um, Disney has definitely spoken out about it, and you can tell that they're putting their money where their mouth is. Look at the cast for Spider-Man Homecoming. There is not another white person in that entire cast beside Tom Holland. Every other speaking role in that movie, besides Michael Keaton and Tom Holland, are some ethnic diverse people. Okay? Look at what they're doing with Moana. And Moana is a runaway hit for Disney. That is all about a Polynesian princess, basically. Are you still there? Are you still there? Hello?